Hello, my name is Terry Davis. I am an attorney located in Montgomery, Alabama. I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm an author and business consultant. And I want to thank you for tuning in to us today and watching this segment. I've also had the occasion to start a number of businesses, had the occasion to do a lot of consulting with companies to help companies grow, help businesses grow. And so business and entrepreneurship is something that I enjoy. Business and entrepreneurship is something that, because you're watching it, I'm sure that you enjoy it, and you feel that you have a calling to get into your business and to do the kinds of things that that fit within your purpose in life, and that is perhaps to own a business where you are making lots of money for one thing, but also making a difference in the world, because that's what being an entrepreneur is all about. Entrepreneurs are creators. Entrepreneurs are people who really do make a difference in the world. Entrepreneurs are people who create value and solve problems and solutions for people. And so it's always good to be a part of that larger purpose that sort of gives you that drive and passion to want to be successful in your business, whatever that may be. So I wanted to mention those things, but today what we're going to talk about and focus on are the 5 basic structures of a business, a legal business. And since I need to put a timer on here. You know what? I know he can at least edit this because I'm going to start all over. Maybe you can use that piece. Okay. We should have a timer because I'll keep going. So even though he stepped out, we probably should have waited. Timer. You're taping. I'm getting my timer here so that I will know.
Clean it up.
Yep. Stop at about 15 minutes, and that way I will. Okay. Stopwatch. 15 minutes. Timer. 15 minutes. Okay. Hello, my name is Terry Davis. I am an attorney in Montgomery, Alabama. My law firm is Davis and Hatcher. I'm also an entrepreneur, an author, business consultant, and basically I'm a person that enjoys business, small business, and helping small businesses grow to be large businesses. And as an entrepreneur, there are several things that you want to keep in mind as an entrepreneur, but today we'll be talking about the legal structure of business, because understanding the legal structure of business is key and important to your overall success. And there are issues far beyond the legal side that we'll touch on, but the most important thing is that you understand the basic legal structures of business and how a business works from a legal standpoint and how that benefits you in terms of having that knowledge. Now, today we're going to specifically talk about the 5 basic forms of business that you have to choose from. There are more, but basically there are 5 basic forms that you'll often run into as it relates to the decision on whether or not to start your business. So we'll talk about those 5, and then at the end of this, we'll do a couple of, I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios just to make sure that you understand the concepts and what it means to have selected a particular form of business as you make the decision to, to select the kind of business that you decide on. So with that, let's start with number 1. And I know we talked about takes, so I know we're doing takes, and I really didn't intend to do that, but we'll have to try to get this started again. So I think you can probably cut and paste those things and back and forth. So let me just try to start here. So let's start with the first form of business that you see most common and most often, and that is sole proprietorship. Now, a sole proprietorship is the most simple form to set up, and it is a business that once you go out and start to sell products or anything for profit, basically you are in business. That's a sole proprietorship. You don't have to have any particular structure. There's no legal form that takes place. It is a legal structure. It is a form of business, but you don't have to do anything if you're a sole proprietor in terms of operating your business or whatever type of business it is that you have. Now, there are some pluses and there are some minuses to having a sole proprietorship. And for each form of business that we talk about, I'm going to talk a little bit about the pluses and the minuses, the benefits and some of the disadvantages of each one of those segments that you'll have to choose from and make the decision in terms of what form you want to select. But right now, let's talk for a minute about the sole proprietorship. And as I mentioned, there are some very significant advantages of the sole proprietorship. But let me say this, overall, there are two basic things you want to keep in mind for any type of business that you start. And one of the things to keep in mind is that you are looking for to keep your taxes as low as possible with whichever form that you decide on. So the tax benefits in terms of getting your tax rate or keeping it as low as possible. And then the other one is liability, limited liability. You want to limit your liability as much as possible for whichever type of business that you decide on. So as we continue talking about the sole proprietorship at this point, one of the disadvantages, major disadvantages of a sole proprietorship is that you don't have any protection from your personal assets as far as liability is concerned. You have unlimited liability. That means that if something happens and you get sued, your personal assets will be at risk. So that's a major disadvantage. However, on the other hand, one of the great disadvantages of a sole proprietorship is that you get a lower tax rate. You get the lowest tax rate out there as an individual as far as operating your sole proprietorship. And if you have a sole proprietorship, you can often file on the structure of that business on your tax returns on your regular on a Schedule C on your income tax form. So it's pretty easy to operate. Now, when you operate any type of business, one of the things you want to do is to always try to keep you actually want to keep your personal business operations separate from your personal business. The personal business separate from the business operations is key. It's very important because if you blend the two together, even if you're a sole proprietorship, you're going to run into problems with Uncle Sam either way it goes. So when you start your business, it's important to always keep in mind that you want to have your receipts and records from your business separated from your receipts and things that you do on your personal life, because there are some deductions that you can take depending on where you locate, if you have a home office, things of that nature. And it's important, though, to be able to legitimately claim those things that you can claim, and that is to have the appropriate receipts and records and tax records that you've maintained and kept separately in terms of operating your business, keeping up with the income that you make from it, and also just maintaining separate identities for those two businesses, even though you're operating it as a sole proprietorship. Now, the second form of business, that's number one. Number two is a partnership. Now, a partnership is two or more people doing business for profit. And there's no particular structure or form that's required to start a partnership. You can have a friend that you know, or your spouse or someone else that can just go out and start selling lemonade on the corner stand. If the two of you are selling that lemonade and the purpose is to do it for a profit, then you've got a partnership. You've got a partnership and you've got a business operation that's recognized in law. Now, what are the advantages and disadvantages of a general partnership? Well, one of the great advantages of that is, much like the sole proprietorship, you also get the lower tax rate as far as a sole proprietorship is concerned. I mean, when you compare the two of those, you get that you have that lower tax rate. But also, like the sole proprietorship, one of the disadvantages is that you have unlimited liability on the side of being a general partner. Now, some people call this an advantage. It's an advantage that all partners in the business have the right to bind the business contractually. If one partner does something in the business and you're in a partnership, and the other partner may even disagree with that, But if that partner binds the business, signs the contract, signs the documents, whatever they are, then the partnership itself is going to be bound, and you as a member of that partnership are going to be liable for whatever it is that the partner has done in that particular situation. So that's a disadvantage. And again, there are advantages in terms of form. The formality of setting up a business is not as great because you really can get together and have as much formality or as little formality as you like. You can start it without signing any kind of paper. The law recognizes that partnership even if you don't have documentation to support it, but then of course you can always have extensive documentation to support and build that partnership on. But the issues as far as liability is concerned and the tax consequences are the same. You have that exposure from a liability standpoint, but you also get the benefits of the lower tax rate from the tax perspective. So that's number two. Now the third form of business is the corporation or the corporate form. Now that's many people are very familiar with the corporate form, and there are many advantages and disadvantages to the corporate structure. Now the way a corporation is set up, you will have the board of directors, then you'll have the officers, and then at the third level you have stockholders. Now, depending on what it is that you're doing, that's important in terms of making the decision as to whether you want to select the corporate structure. Oftentimes, if you have the type of business where you're going to be going out looking for investors, you'll want to select the corporate structure, or you want to incorporate or have a corporation because corporations have been around a long time. The law is well settled in the area of corporations, and people are very familiar with the corporate structure, and it's a good way to buy and sell the stock that the stockholders get in terms of being able to raise money as far as the corporate structure is concerned. So that's a big advantage that you have, and which is the ability to be able to raise money in a corporate structure when you do that. Now, as it relates to liability and taxes on those, if you go back to that basic foundation that we talked about, then you want to consider those as factors too. Now, one of the great disadvantages of the corporate structure is that corporations are taxed at a significant tax rate than a partnership. And then they're also taxed at a higher rate, obviously, as the sole proprietorship is concerned. So that's a disadvantage of a corporation. Another big disadvantage of a corporation is that you get what's called double taxation on the income that comes into the corporation. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that the income that comes into that corporate structure, and it's a separate entity, that income is taxed when it comes in to the corporation. And then it's taxed again whenever it goes out as dividends. So it gets hit twice. Uncle Sam gets two bites at that piece of the apple when it comes into the company, and then when it goes out as dividends. So it's taxed twice, and that's what they call a double taxation penalty in the corporate structure. Now, one of the advantages, though, of a corporate structure and incorporation is that there is limited liability. That stockholders who are at that third level that we talked about in the corporation, they are insulated from liability when it comes to tort liability, a accident or something like that. Somebody does something wrong in the corporation and the corporation is sued. The stockholders have limited liability. They're limited to the investment that they've put into the corporation. So you have that protection, and then where you do have when you compare that to the tax advantage or disadvantage that you have some decisions to make in terms of weighing, whether that's a significant enough advantage for you to have that, when you weigh the tax liability as opposed to the unlimited liability. Now, corporations also have, as an advantage, what's called centralized management. At the top level, you have the president, you have officers who may be the vice president and other officers in the corporation. These are the people who manage the corporation. Stockholders themselves, when you go down to the